Like what?
When Alien Isolation launched in 2014, the horror game genre was already crowded with loud, fast-paced titles. Franchises like Dead Space, Resident Evil, and Outlast had set the standard. Over-the-top gore, heavy action, and heart-pounding chases, driven by orchestral scores and jump scares. But Isolation took a risk. It slowed things down. It brought players back to the basics of dread, vulnerability, silence, paranoia. It didn't want to startle you. It wanted to haunt you. And in doing so, it became one of the most distinct and memorable horror experiences of its generation. From the start, Alien Isolation made its intentions clear. This wasn't another Alien-style shoot-'em-up. It was a tribute to Ridley Scott's 1979 Alien film, a movie that emphasized mood over monsters, suspense over spectacle. The developers at Creative Assembly went to painstaking lengths to recreate the look and feel of the original film's retro-futuristic world. CT monitors, lo-fi interfaces, heavy industrial doors, the flickering lights, every inch of the Sevastopol station drips with dread and authenticity. While most sci-fi horror games were trending towards sleek UIs and futuristic HUDs, Isolation kept it simple. The clunky motion tracker, the slow-loading map, the absence of handholding, all of it just added to the immersion. This dedication to atmosphere wasn't just surface level, it was the game's entire foundation.
I'm going to catch you.
The Xenomorph wasn't a scripted creature waiting in specific hallways to trigger events. It was dynamic, driven by AI learning from player behavior, and always lurking. Couldn't kill it, you couldn't predict it, you could only hide. That alone would be enough to carry most horror games. But Alien Isolation layered its fear even deeper, because while the alien was the headline threat, it wasn't the only one. The Working Joes, cold, expressionless androids, added a different flavor of horror. They weren't quick or clever like the alien. They were slow, methodical, and emotionless. They didn't run, they walked, and they didn't stop.
Let me help you.
Their glowing eyes and robotic voices offered no comfort, only indifference. And their presence blurred the line between human-made tools and unknowable danger. Fighting them wasn't just unwise, it was usually fatal. They amplified the game's feeling of helplessness and dehumanization. Then there were the hostile survivors, terrified and desperate, who shoot you on sight. These weren't evil villains. They were just scared people, trying to live another day. You had to sneak past them or risk combat with limited resources. And because Amanda Ripley is not a soldier, every encounter was high risk. The fear here was human, the fear of mistrust, of survival at all costs. Together, these three forces, alien, android, and human, created a layered horror ecosystem that kept the player on edge. You were never safe. You weren't just hiding from one monster. You were navigating a collapsing world filled with threats, each dangerous in their own way.
I love you, sweetheart.
Ripley's daughter, Amanda, isn't a space marine or a trained killer. She's a technician. She's smart, resourceful, and determined. But she's also deeply human. Her fear feels grounded. Her story is personal. This isn't about saving the world. It's about finding answers, about closure. Most horror protagonists at the time were blank slates, like in Outlast or Overpowered. Resident Evil 6 comes to mind. Amanda Ripley was something in between, capable but terrified, vulnerable but not helpless. She fit the world of Isolation perfectly, and her character helped ground the narrative in something emotional, not just mechanical. Where many horror games were speeding up, Alien Isolation forced players to slow down. Every footstep could attract the alien, every noise could trigger a Working Joe, and every detour could lead to a survivor who'd rather kill you than take chances. There was no sprinting through danger, no get-out-of-jail weapons, just hiding, waiting, and praying you weren't heard. And the absence of music for long stretches of time made the tension worse. Instead of a swelling orchestra, you got silence, or worse, the distant thud of something moving in the vents. This approach created emergent horror, fear that didn't come from a set piece or scripted scene, but from unpredictable systems interacting. The alien could interrupt the stealth section, A working joke could just appear when you thought you were clear, and none of it was staged. It just happened. That randomness kept every minute feeling unsafe. The sound design in Alien Isolation is more than background. It's a gameplay mechanic. The alien responds to noise. Every creak, hiss, and thump has weight. Running saved time, but drew attention. Even breathing while hiding in a locker could move you away. And the motion tracker, one of the game's core mechanics, makes a loud, distinct ping. Using it gives you valuable information, but it also increases the risk of being heard. This kind of sound design turns the act of checking your surroundings into a gamble. It's not just about reacting to the environment, it's about choosing when to risk interacting with it. Few games before Isolation weaponized sound in such a deliberate, player-driven way, added with the minimal HUD, which disappears when not in use, only increases the immersion. The absence of on-screen clutter makes players feel like they're truly inside the world, a choice that was rare for AAA titles at the time. And unlike other horror games where enemies spawn after you hit a checkpoint or trigger a cutscene, in Isolation you could be hunted at any time. There was no music cue to warn you, no save unless you found a terminal and risked standing still. That made the fear deeply personal. You were surviving, not progressing through a level. At launch, Alien Isolation was divisive. Some players loved it. Others were frustrated by its difficulty, its pacing, or its unpredictability. But over time, its reputation has only grown. What once felt punishing now feels bold. What once felt too slow now feels refreshingly deliberate. In hindsight, Alien Isolation was ahead of its time. It arrived when horror was still wrestling with its identity, caught between action blockbusters and indie experiments. Isolation carved out a unique space between the two, showing that a big budget horror game could still be slow, subtle, and terrifying without sacrificing depth or atmosphere. You can see Alien Isolation's influence in the years that followed. Games like Resident Evil 7 returned to slower, first-person horror. Titles like Amnesia Rebirth, SOMA, and Signalis leaned into psychological fear and player vulnerability. Even big-budget horror started embracing tension over gunplay. Isolation didn't just bring back the feel of classic horror, it helped redefine it for the modern era. But what made it unforgettable wasn't just its influence, it was its courage. It stood out not because it was the scariest game of all time, but because it redefined what fear could feel like. It trusted its players, took creative risks, and layered its threats in a way few games dared to try. The alien might have been the main attraction, but it was the presence of the working Joes and hostile survivors that turned Sevastopol into a living nightmare. Not just a haunted house, but a collapsing ecosystem of terror. And slowing down horror, Alien Isolation pushed the genre forward. It reminded us that fear isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks slowly, sometimes it talks in a soft robotic voice, and sometimes it just waits for you to make a noise. Hold on, I need this, bro. Hold on. Calm me down. Calm me down.
Slow, reliable sound of your own breath. Troubles cannot break through.
Oh God, they can't. Oh
You
God.
are alone.
I'm alone.
But you are safe.
I'm safe in here.
How do you feel?
I feel good, bro. I don't got an alien chasing me, you know? I feel like real confident in here. Like, I feel good.